Yeah. I'm here to change the game up. I'm here to shuffle up the deck. You'll probably think I'm famous because
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Running Through It podcast. My name is Justin Horniker, and I got another interview today. We're going fast and steady with the interviews all until this thing is over because I got nothing to do. I'm sitting here at my kitchen table, haven't left the apartment except to run in about 2 weeks now, doing my best to not go completely insane. I think everyone's kind of feeling it. We've gotten to the point in stay-at-home life where it's starting to feel normal, and I don't know how I feel about that. When I have to actually go back to my real daily routine, it's going to be I don't know. It's going to be another adjustment to make because I'm just living my life right now. I've been creating content all week and just loving it, so hopefully it isn't too much of an adjustment again. Anyway, without rambling on too much, because I have a good interview today. I talked with Camille Herron. Camille's accomplishments speak for herself. She probably doesn't need much of an introduction, but since some of my audience probably isn't as familiar with ultra running, she is the multi-time world champion, multi-time world record holder, someone who has just taken the sport over by storm. I think, to me, her most impressive run was probably the 24-hour run that she ran, just keeping an 8:35 pace the whole time. Like I said, multiple-time world champion. She's a Comrades marathon winner. She was the first one to break Ann Trayson's record from 1991. Yeah, she's someone who has just been synonymous with ultra running the past few years. So it was great to talk to her, because we got into a couple of things just about ultra running in general and women in sports. I don't want to take up too much more time, but before we get into the interview, let me plug, and thanks again to The Feed. As I announced last week, The Feed is kind of sponsoring the next couple of episodes. If you go to clubs.thefeed.com/running through it, which I'll post down in the show notes, as well as all of Camille's links and everything, you will get a landing page for 15% off everything at thefeed.com. The Feed is where you get all your nutrition and hydration needs. And like I said last week when I talked to Riley about it, I wanted to make sure that everything was taking proper precautions, and they assured me that everything from their warehouse is following all the food guidelines of just being sterilized and not being contaminated, and everything that you would maybe be worried about in this time, they have addressed. So again, that's clubs.thefeed.com/running through it, and you can help me out by ordering some stuff from people that believe in me. So, without further ado, let's hop right into the interview. You've been dealing with everything. How has training and everything been going with all the uncertainty right now?
It's been quite a month, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I feel I feel like at first, I kind of had to. I felt like I was somewhat emotional over everything, and just trying to process what was happening in the world and with races and all of that. So I would say maybe the first week or two that I was just trying to process it. It's funny, when you go through something like that in life, that emotion takes a toll on your running. So I kind of went through a period where I was just kind of okay, just taking a day at a time. And this week I started to feel like my energy's feeling better and my mood's better. And I've gotten in a good long run this week and did a good hill session. So I feel like I'm just trying to train like I normally would right now, but there's obviously no races happening. So
what was currently your training? What race did you have coming up that you're getting ready for? That
so when the coronavirus broke out, I guess at the end of January and through February, I started talking with my sponsor, Nike, about possibly putting on a 100-mile event on the Nike track. And so there was actually a race in the UK that I was considering doing, but that was 100 miles on the track as well. But as the virus started to spread around the world, it finally just became, like, okay, I don't think I want to go travel to the UK to go run 100 miles on the track.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can really make something happen on the Nike track. So we had literally just committed to planning a race at the beginning of March to be scheduled for the middle of April. And within 5 or 6 days was when everything started to shut down, and Nike just ended up canceling the event. So yeah, I missed my opportunity to go for my 12-hour 100-mile world records on the track. And yeah, I felt a bit of a loss from that, but at the same time, it was very obvious that, races needed to start doing what was right for us and our health and our safety. So yeah, I feel like it's on the stages of grieving that, if I had to say, what stage I'm on right now, I feel like I'm at the acceptance stage.
Yeah.
And so so I feel like I'm pretty much taking it in stride, and whatever happens to any more races, that I can just kind of go with the flow. So
Yeah, I think for me the hardest thing is just accepting things that are out of my control, because just my nature in general. I always want to be a problem solver, but it's this is a problem that we can't really solve on our own. It can be the toughest part.
Yeah, definitely. It's one thing when, something happens to you, an injury, or, I was in a car accident last year. So yeah, there's things that, just kind of randomly happen. And yeah, it's kind of crazy. This is something that's impacts much more than ourselves, that, it impacts the entire world. And yeah, it's pretty heartbreaking, to lose a race moment, but at the same time, we got to prioritize our own health and safety. So
yeah, how is the vibe around where you live right now? Do you kind of notice the difference with just the community? Is everyone, because here in Kansas City, it's stay at home, and you go outside, and there's it's kind of like a ghost town, because I live in downtown actually. It's I've never seen it like this before.
Yeah. So, because I live in Alameda, Colorado, here with my husband and our 2 dogs, and yeah, in Alameda, this is where Adams State College is, and so I normally see them out running as a group in the afternoon, and the past couple weeks, I might see a random Adams State runner, by themselves, or maybe with another partner or something. But yeah, it's kind of weird because we drove out to the hills here on Wednesday, and just driving back through town, everything is shut down, and usually you see people out walking and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's kind of interesting because I've seen, I feel like I've seen more families out, with kids and people on bikes and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's not like I live in a large running community like Boulder or something like that, which I've heard there's a lot of people that are out and about. So
yeah, a little bit different. How have you liked Alamosa in general? Because I know you're still relatively new to the area, aren't you?
Yeah, it's. I've lived and trained a lot of the popular places like Flagstaff and Boulder and Colorado Springs and Bozeman. But yeah, Alamosa, I really like. We really like it here. It's a pretty quiet town. And I feel it's a running community because of Adams State that's here, but there's not a whole lot to do here. I think there's 7,000 people in the community, maybe a little bit more, including the college. So yeah, I feel like this is a really good place for kind of the blue collar type runner that just likes to focus on training and eat, sleep, run, repeat type mentality. And yeah, I came here at the beginning of my running career when I was a marathoner, And I came there because of Dina Capster.
That's
like
right.
I knew that this is where she got her running start as a marathoner, and I mean that's what inspired me to come here at the beginning of my career. And but yeah, my husband and I like moved here from Oklahoma almost 2 years ago now. And so yeah, I mean I feel like I'm following my dream right now. So
Living the life.
It's definitely really cool. I mean, like going from living in an urban city where like there's cars everywhere to here where I'm like 2 minutes from a trailhead and a beautiful view of the mountains. I mean, I definitely, you can't beat like just being here and the ambience to it. So
It's very much like the romantic runner tale of just living in like a secluded area, and all you get to do is run on the trails and be away from everything. It's kind of nice.
Oh, totally. Yeah, my husband and I were hoping to eventually retire here, but we came back here a couple years ago, and we were like, oh gosh, you know, it's just so nice here. And yeah, obviously since I've gotten into trail running, to be closer to the mountains is definitely like this dream life now. So
Yeah. Do you think it like helps your mentality of, obviously, like with your races, you're out there for in your head for a long time? Does it kind of help with just your overall like mental state as far as like racing wise? Because you've been on a tear lately too.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just so quiet and calm here, and yeah, I mean, it just feels like it soothes your soul. Like I feel like I go out for my run every day, and I've got this mountain view, and yeah, I mean, it's just it feels to me like I'm out for like a hot bath or something.
Yeah.
You know, even though the altitude is like kicking my butt, like I mean, I've still got this like amazing view, and yeah, it just feels good. Like I feel like when I'm in a city, like there's just so much like hustle and bustle, and yeah, it's just a different like environment, and yeah, obviously with the trail running, like I'm closer to the mountains, and I mean there's nothing like going out to the mountains and, you know, crushing a really good climb, going uphill and then, you know, coming back down. So yeah, I mean, I just love it. Like, I mean, I started out as a road racer, like, you know, having to do splits all the time and that sort of thing. And to be able to get into trail running, I mean, it just really like soothes your soul. So
Yeah, I in college I just had a lot of like anxiety issues. So I took a semester off, and like during that semester and the year after, I spent a lot of time just like on the trails, and just the like idea of being kind of away from everything, because in St. Louis there's like a bunch of trails just like outside the city, so you can go and be out there for a couple hours, and yeah, like mentally it helps, I think, with just like focusing on the task at hand and that like mindful reset.
Yeah, I feel such a, like, I go back, even as an ultra runner, I go back and forth between, like, the road ultras and the trails, and, I mean, if I've done, like, a lot of, like, road racing for a while, I get kind of tired of it, and then I go to the trails, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this just feels so good. So yeah, I mean, it's really nice as an athlete to be versatile and to be able to like mix it up on any surface. And yeah, I mean, I can appreciate like both types of running. And I mean, it's really fun to be on the road and to go fast for as long as I can. But then it's nice to like get on the trails and like get up really high up in the mountains, and yeah, just kind of absorb the natural environment.
So like training more at altitude, what kind of adjustments have you had to make like over the past couple of years, going from kind of more of a flatland to being up in the mountains?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, I kind of take it in stride with like whatever is my upcoming race. So if I'm training more for like a road ultra, like I'll do kind of more road speed and more like concrete based training. But yeah, if I'm training more for trails, then I get off road more. and just try to, maybe emphasize more like technical running, more hill running. But yeah, I mean, I would say that year round, I'm still trying to be versatile. Like, I think it's really good from a health standpoint to mix it up across surfaces and paces and distances. And yeah, I mean, I would say, like, having moved to Colorado, that from a health perspective, I've been able to get more on dirt versus being in an urban city where I was more on concrete.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and I feel like it's really helped me health-wise, like to be able to move my hips a bit more, because I've had hamstring issues for quite a while, and for me to get more off-road and on more trail, on more technical terrain, I mean, I feel like moving forward with my running that this is really going to help me. So.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially just for the like ancillary muscles that you build when you're doing different trains and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. Like even like this winter, like we went through a period where we were getting quite a bit of ice and snow, and so I wasn't able to get off road as much. And I mean, I just felt like my hips started getting tight because I was on more like flat road where it was dry, and so like. Yeah, I mean, I felt like back in December, it's like, oh, my hips are starting to get tight, and but yeah, now that finally things have like melted here, and I've been able to get more on trail and more off road, so I definitely feel a difference in my body, being able to have that versatility. So
it's a good lesson to take away for sure. I have a lot of listeners who are more of a adult runners who just like came to it a little bit later in life. Are there any, like, especially right now in this time of, I don't know, everything's kind of up in the air, right? Just upheaval. I've been trying to, like, get lessons from everyone I talk to that, like, people can take away. Is there one thing in your training right now that, like, you would suggest to other people just trying to get by?
Yeah, that's a good question. My husband and I coach, and I mean, I knew when all this started happening that knowing what I was feeling in terms of emotionally, that the question that we have our athletes ask themselves every day is, how do I feel?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, I think when you wake up every day and before you go for your run, you need to ask yourself, how do I feel? Because, I mean, you need to take it a day at a time with how you feel. And if you have, workout scheduled and you're feeling like total crap, then, you should either, like, take a day off or to have an easy run. So yeah, I mean, I definitely think, that, with what's happening, that it's impacting our emotions more. And we don't think about how that could impact our running, but I'm feeling it. And so, yeah, I'm really being, like, more cognizant with how do I feel today and just kind of going with that feeling, so.
That's actually funny because I was actually writing something kind of along those lines earlier in this week. My college coach used to describe it as, like, an emotional container, and that, like, everything that stresses you in life takes out of that emotional container. So whether it's running, life stressors, work stressors, what have you, it all kind of impacts your body in a similar way. So if you can make sure you're, like, taking mental note of where you're at, like how full your emotional container is, and some days you just have to take it easy or do a little bit less intensity than you were planning, and it's still kind of, your body will adjust if you take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, like, even, I mean, like, last week, so I was planning on running Western States in June.
Yeah.
And I was hoping, I think most of us were hoping that it could be postponed, but it ended up being canceled. And, I mean, for a race to be canceled, it's almost like experiencing a death.
Yeah.
Like, somebody died. And so I went through a couple days where I just had to process that emotionally, that, oh my gosh, Western States isn't happening. And I ended up taking a day off from running. And it's very rare. I mean, I could usually go like 3 months or so before I need a day off. And so I ended up taking a day off. And it was amazing how much that just, like, recharged my batteries. Like, yeah, I mean, it was amazing. Like, I ended up having a really good long run on Sunday, and then I felt like better. I felt better in terms of my energy and just my overall state this week. And but yeah, I mean, it's, you know, all these races being canceled. I mean, yeah, it's obviously it's like you're grieving, you know, what happened, and but at the same time, like I mean, I totally accept, you know, what's happening, and and I feel like going forward, because I mean, it still is uncertain what's going to happen, you know, from like July onwards. But I feel like I can accept now, like, you know, what's happening and why, and, you know, I mean, it's just, yeah, if races need to cancel, that's okay. So
yeah, everything's kind of still up in the air on even if the fall is going to happen. What's the like vibe around Western states being canceled? Is like somebody hoping that someone steps up in the fall and puts on like a similar event, or what's, because I don't keep as close of tabs on the ultra community as I do in general with running, just because I haven't competed in one, so I'm not as tuned in. But like, what's the general vibe around the community on?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, Western states, I would equate it to like Christmas.
Yeah, it's a pretty big one.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, at least for Americans, I feel like Western states is like Christmas. So when you say that Western states is canceled, that's like saying Christmas is canceled. So
that hits home.
Yeah, I mean, I think people, I think like just having seen, you know, what people were saying, I mean, a lot of us were definitely, you know, sad about it, but also very accepting of, you know, I mean, it's just, the timing of it is just so uncertain, and I mean, I think the thing that's really good about Western states is they were communicating with us.
That's good. Yeah.
You know, trying to you know, assess all the impact, you know, of whether they postponed it or canceled it, and you know, just keeping us informed and communicating. And I mean, the ultra trail community is such a small community that I mean, we're pretty understanding, and yeah, I don't think that people are pretty agitated by it. I mean, it's obviously sad, but yeah, I mean, you know, we'll just see what happens. I mean, there's other races happening in July and onwards, and everybody's just, you know, having to put the race goals on pause. And there's a bunch of like virtual races popping up right now, that you know, trying to give people something to stay motivated with. But yeah, I mean, me personally, I'm just kind of like, I'm kind of holding out hope that the Comrades Marathon. So Comrades is supposed to happen in June, but in South Africa, and I think it will either be postponed or canceled. So we're just trying to wait and see what happens with that.
How does that affect, like, so do you train under the assumption that it will go forward, but like in the back of your head knowing that it will be postponed? That must be kind of tough.
Yeah, I felt like I was trying to, when all this started happening, I was trying to process that, like, what do I do now, you know? And I feel like I've gotten to the point in my training where I feel happiest and I feel the best just trying to keep up a routine. And like, even though, you know, I don't know when my next race is, it still feels good to me to keep doing my long run and to do like a hard workout whenever I feel like my body wants to go hard. So yeah, I mean, I kind of, like I said, I kind of went for the first like 2 weeks or so, feeling like I was kind of going through the motions and just trying to emotionally process everything. But this week I felt like I've kind of gained more steam, and I've become more accepting of what's happening, and I just feel better, like continuing to have, you know, my routine and to do a hard workout, you know, every couple of days. So
just kind of keeping everything afloat in the meantime.
Yeah, and you know, it's not like I have to go out and like crush the world in a workout, you know. Like I feel like, I mean, normally like I go and do these like really long hard workouts, and because I'm training for ultras, and so So yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm kind of like pulling back the reins on some of my workouts. Like I don't have to go out and just absolutely obliterate it. But at the same time, it still feels good to get in some level of high intensity, like continue with something high intensity whenever my body feels like it. So.
Yeah, and I guess one of the benefits for you versus like track athletes necessarily is that a lot of the work that you're doing, you can hold on for a little bit longer, as opposed to like track athletes trying to find a peak and not knowing where that is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it must be really tough for track athletes because I mean, their racing season is so short, and I mean, it would normally be happening like right now.
Yeah. There's who knows.
Yeah. like for me, I mean, it's pretty much year-round racing. Like, I mean, usually during the winter time, I can do more like road ultra, track ultra stuff. And then during the summertime, there's more like trail racing. So yeah, I mean, I've got year-round race options, and I mean, I train on all different surfaces, so it's not like I'm just confined to the track or. Yeah, so I mean, I'm still able to keep it fun right now and like mix it up and go explore places in our area and such. So
cool. Yeah, so Camille, I wanted to talk to you a bit about your Nike sponsorship, because I know like when you signed it, it was a bit of a hot button issue. How's that relationship been? How's it kind of been evolving since you started working with them?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so I mean, when I got into ultra running, I mean, it was shocking. Like, I had no idea. I mean, I was at the point in my marathoning career where I was going to retire.
Yeah.
Because I was back working full time in research and very focused on my job. And it was kind of like this shot in the dark that I took with the whole ultra running thing. And I mean, right away, I just started like broke a record by Ann Trayson, who's a legend in the sport. And I, like, let's see, what was it, my third ultra? I ended up winning a world title. so like, I was pretty overwhelmed.
That's a pretty good sign.
What's that?
So that's a pretty good sign, you know?
I mean, what do you do when you try something for the first time and you find out you're like the best in the world at it, you know? So I was pretty overwhelmed at first, and I ended up signing with an agent at the time, and because I didn't know what to do. I was like, what do I do? You know, like I don't even know what to do with this. And so I went through, like, my first year was really, really amazing, and then my second year just got really, really hard. And I think a lot of it stems from being a woman. Being a woman who's in my mid-30s and finding out I'm suddenly the best in the world at something. And so it was actually extremely hard getting sponsorships.
Yeah.
And I mean, I went through a period where I just got really sad about it because it was extremely hard. And I ended up finding that I didn't have the right agent, the right person that believes in me and supporting me and believing in my dreams and my vision that I had with what I felt like I could do. And so once I finally got things sorted with got a new agent and everything, that he was able to make the connection with Nike. And I mean, I had been training. I trained for most of my career. I've been training and racing for most of my career in Nikes. So for me, you know, as an ultra runner, you've got to go with the shoes that feel the best, you know, that work for you. And so, I mean, I had won 2 world titles, and I was at the time I was wearing the Nike Luna Racer, which was an awesome shoe that I wore for like 10 years. So anyway, it's obviously Nike's worked for me, and so my agent was able to make that connection with Nike, and yeah, I mean, they over time, I think the thing that was really cool about when I got my sponsorship with Nike was I told them like the vision that I had, that I was going to elevate the sport and take it to a new level. And, seeing what I've been able to do the past couple of years, like breaking world records and winning comrades and winning another world title, that, it's really cool that, they believed in me from the beginning, and that I've been able to, fulfill what I saw and what I felt like was possible. And so yeah, I think it's been really cool to work with them, and now obviously they've got the Vaporfly shoe, and coming out with the Alpha Fly, and I've been training a lot in the Alpha Fly recently. So
nice. Is that something that you're gonna wear in an ultra whenever you get the chance? Is it gonna work out for that?
Yeah. So they're pretty different shoes. And I've been communicating with Nike about. I've been talking with Nike about like kind of what I've been feeling with the shoe and everything. It's a very interesting shoe because like you put it on at first, and it's so much cushioning, and it still is very, very light. And I've had to get used to the added cushioning of that versus the Vaporfly. But I feel like I've been doing a couple workouts in it, and I'm running like maybe 5 to 10 seconds faster for say a tempo run or something like that, versus what I was wearing for the Vaporfly. So even though it's just this weird sensation of having more cushioning and more shoe on your feet, but at the same time you're going faster. And so I'm trying to, it's just this weird sensation that, it's just so much cushioning, and it makes you go faster, so.
Yeah, they're pretty insane. I work at a run specialty store, and when we got them in, it's like the lightness of them, and then when you put them on, they just kind of like propel you forward in general with just the feel and the stack height. I wasn't sure, that's good to know, because I didn't know if they would hold up for an ultra or not, but it seems like you've been doing well in them in training.
I was planning to wear them for my 100-mile race that I was going to do. I would say even my first couple runs I did in them, I was just really, first off, I felt good. I was like, okay, this is the best active recovery shoe I've ever worn. In terms as an ultra runner, obviously I'm dealing with an extreme amount of muscle fatigue,
right? And
just seeing how my legs and my feet felt in them, it was oh my gosh, these feel amazing. But then doing faster workouts in them, I feel like they're really awesome at a tempo run pace. But when I would do strides or hard sprinting in them, it was I had to learn how to control the cushioning of the shoe. I've kept training in them and just getting used to that sensation that they have. So
yeah, that makes sense. So I want to circle back a little bit, because you mentioned kind of how hard it was finding sponsorships initially. Do you feel like ultra running is in a better place now than it was a few years ago? Sometimes I can't tell if I'm more just plugged into the bubble, or if that actually is the fact. Do you think if you came up now as opposed to when you did, do you think you'd have an easier time?
Oh yeah, definitely. You just see what's happening outside of ultra running. Women are getting their voice, and they're able to come out, and obviously what I'm doing, and there's a lot of women in ultra running that have been beating the men outright, and so I feel like there's been a shift, maybe just the past 2.5 years. In ultra running, where women we're seen as these heroes, or sheroes, I should say. These superwoman persona, and I definitely feel that we're starting to get more respect and more attention for what we're doing. Even though women are a minority in the sport, that the women who do ultra running are very, very strong. I think it takes a really strong woman to do the sport. Period.
Yeah, for sure.
So even though there's less of us in the sport, like the women who do it are just amazing. And I mean, I've got like one of my friends, Sabrina's family. She lives down in Silverton, Colorado, where they have the Hard Rock 100. And so we joke that she's the queen of the big mountains, and I'm the queen of the roads. And so anyways, it's amazing because there's women, there's some really strong women, you know, who are kind of found their niche in the sport, and they're really, really dominating it. And I was actually on a panel of women last summer. That the Hard Rock 100 was canceled last summer because of snow, but they brought together all these women, and they've got like all these legends, these women who have conquered Hard Rock like many times, and they had Sabrina there, and they had me there, and it was just so like empowering. That you know they're getting more women together like that, and they're letting our voice be heard. And yeah, I mean, I feel like we're all like kind of elevating each other and giving each other confidence that you know we can compete with the men, or we can beat them. And I mean, I've definitely felt that the past couple of years. You know what's happening with what I'm doing and what other women are doing. So.
It's kind of like a all ships rise with the tide kind of scenario. What do you think? Yeah. Like, what do you think still needs to be done? What is kind of your goal moving forward as far as the general empowerment?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know what my goals are. I want to start getting into multi-day racing, and I want to see if it's possible to see how close I can get to the men's world records for multi-day racing. And so there was a study that came out back in January that showed that I think it was something like 194 miles or something like that women start to exceed men in their average pace. And I think that what that is saying, that even though women in ultra running are minority, like there's less number of women, that the women who do the multi-day racing are very strong. And so the quality of women is really strong and going into that multi-day stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, it'll be really exciting for me to get into that kind of racing and just see if I can close the gap on the men's records or even surpass the men's world record. And so that's what really excites me.
That'd be pretty exciting, yeah.
What's that?
So that'd be pretty exciting, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you hear these, like, you know, you read these stories about women winning races outright, like the Stein race over in the UK, or women's ultra swimming and cycling and all these, like, really, really long stuff. And so I think it's going to be really exciting the next 5 to 10 years to see if you know, myself and other women get into more of this, like, multi-day type of racing. But yeah, I mean, as far as like my goals this year, I'm actually committed to the Big Backyard Ultra in October. So I'm still holding out hope that race doesn't get canceled. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool to see like new types of races coming about in the sport. And so I mean, that's a race where it tries to be more of an equalizer, where you run, I think it's just over 4 miles every hour for however many hours.
Nice, yeah.
And so it's not so much about like how fast you are, like how much distance you can cover over time. I think it comes down to more like, you know, who can handle sleep deprivation. Yeah.
It's more of like a strength of will thing at that point, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's there's some really interesting, you know, race formats coming about in ultra running. They're trying to test you, you know, besides, you know, how fast you can go in a certain period. So it'll be interesting, like to do my first Big Backyard Ultra. So.
How would you get more women involved in ultramarathoning?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really helps the media trying to cover more women in the sport. I mean, there's definitely more of it happening. Like actually, one of my friends had posted something on Facebook a couple months ago that her daughter was flipping through the ultra running magazine, and I mean there was some sort of calendar in there where it showed men racing alone and looking fierce, like in this calendar. But then when it showed women, it usually showed women like in groups or more in a social or casual situation. And so it's really interesting. And I mean, this isn't just with ultra running. I mean, this is the whole sport in general, that, you know, there's less coverage. There's generally less coverage of women in newspapers or Sports Illustrated. And so I feel like there just needs to be more of a movement to show women being strong and being fierce, and, you know, put us on the covers, but, you know, don't just make it about body image. Like, I want people to see me, like, you know, in dire distress, you know, like I want people to
like
see
race
me
face,
like getting it out, you know, like,
yeah.
Because obviously, I want people to be like, okay, here's a woman running strong, like, I could do that, you know, why can't I?
Yeah, and I always feel like
so,
it's those like iconic moments that we all remember too. It's, you know, we need to highlight like the accomplishments. Like when I think about like my favorite moment in men's sports, it's like, you know, Michael Jordan game-winning shot, Game 6 against the Jazz, and it's like all that is just like I was watching that game, and like that's the moment. And if like you women competitors got that kind of coverage, like we would have those moments to remember. And I think, like, to me, that's what stands out most about.
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember watching like the women's national soccer team when Brandy Chastain, you know, took off her shirt and, you know, got down on her knees, like all that. Yeah, I mean, those are iconic moments, and I've gotten together with Spartan Trail this year, and I mean, we were watching, what was it, ESPN or something here a month or two ago, and they were showing the Spartan World Championship on TV.
Nice.
And I was like, man, that's what trail running needs. So Spartan is getting into trail running. They formed a Spartan Trail. And I mean, I've been collaborating with them and telling them, hey, you know, we need to get trail running on ESPN. Like, it needs to be on TV. And so Spartan has like connections like that. And so, I mean, I see the sport evolving to be on mainstream TV like that. So
what would you, so like, as far as women wanting to get into the sport, what would you kind of say to someone who is like on the fence about if they want to do their first ultra or not? How would you convince them to get involved?
How would I convince them? That's a great question. I mean, for me as a road racer who came from Oklahoma City, where I don't have mountains in my backyard. I mean, it's intimidating. Like, I remember towing the line at my first 100K and thinking, oh my gosh, I'm running 62 miles, you know, and like I don't even know what's going to happen. So yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to give people the confidence, and if people see me doing it, especially like other marathoners, and even from me getting into the sport, I saw people like Magdalena Boulet and Casey Lichtig and Michelle Yates, people who were marathoners when I was a marathoner, and they took that leap to start doing trail racing and ultra running. And so yeah, I think that there's going to be this movement of people are going to be like, okay, if she's doing it, maybe I could do it too.
Yeah.
And so I feel like social media has been really helpful in that perspective, you know, in showing athletes who have transitioned from road racing to trail running. And I mean, for me, it's fun. Like, I see it as fun. I mean, yeah, it's intimidating and scary to go run, you know, further than you ever have and be on mountainous terrain, but at the same time, like, you know, just trying to instill the confidence in people that they could make that sort of same leap of faith that I did. So
Yeah, it's intimidating, but I think like it's all perspective, right? Because when you first get into running and you run your first 5K, and then like someone talks to you about doing a marathon, like the marathon looks like just this impossible distance.
yeah.
And it's like kind of that same thing of like, all right, you've run a marathon, but let's talk about like a 100K or a 50 miler. And it's like, yeah, it's all perspective.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I remember running my first half marathon and thinking that it felt like a marathon.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, now that I've gone so much longer, like I look at the marathon as a sprint. Like, I mean, it's like my speed work now. So I think that there is perspective, and that, you know, people want to challenge themselves. Like they might go to the marathon and then they've done that for, you know, a year or two or whatever, and then they're just like, hey, you know, what's next? You know, and people, a lot of people might be getting tired of, you know, worrying about splits and paces and that sort of thing. And I mean, trail running is like an all-day type of movement. And yeah, and I should also add that, I mean, my husband and I started coaching almost 2 years ago, and so for people who want to make that leap, you know, from the marathon and road racing into ultra running, that I mean, we felt like we wanted to give back to the sport and to be able to guide people on how to make that shift. So
Yeah. Where can people find your guys' information, Camille?
yeah, so so our coaching website is runwithcamille.com, and yeah, I mean, it was pretty amazing. Like I had been requested. People were asking me about coaching for several years, and I finally told my husband, I was like, hey, we better just start doing this because I'm getting so many requests. And so once we started our coaching website, like, I mean, it's just really exploded. And I mean, it's been really cool that, I mean, we've been able to guide people all over the world now to do things that they just didn't think was possible. And so, I mean, for me, it feels really good that I'm able to give back and share, you know, my knowledge and how I made that adjustment. So yeah, it's been really fun to get into coaching. So
Cool. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, Camille. Where can people find you at? You're on Twitter and Instagram. Let's plug your stuff real quick before I get off the phone with you.
Yeah, it's good chatting with you. I'm pretty active on social media, so I'm on Twitter and Instagram at RunCamille. So yeah, I'm pretty active on there, and I like to interact with people. And I've also got a Facebook page, so it's my Camille Herron athlete page. And yeah, I mean, during this difficult time, like, I'm still trying to share things to keep people inspired and just try to stay positive. And yeah, I mean, I think we all feel the toll of what's happening right now, but we're all in it together, and we can, be there, socially and distantly, to help each other get through it. So
Cool. Well, thanks for hopping on the phone with me, Camille. And we're back. Thanks again to Camille for hopping on the phone with me. Again, you can find Camille at RunCamille on Twitter and Instagram, on the Camille Herron Facebook page. We're all just trying to get through this thing. I really liked our talk. I liked the direction that took, for sure. Camille's someone who I think paints a really good picture of ultramarathoning and is a good face of the sport, for a lack of a better word. So, anyways, that's it for today's episode. I will be back next week. I'm not sure what these episodes are going to look like yet. Everything's kind of an up in the air, rolling schedule. I'll try to get some good interviews for you, but I think I'll have a solo podcast next week too, just to talk about things, talk about my feelings and whatnot. Thanks again to The Feed for sponsoring the episode. Again, if you go to clubs.thefeed.com/running through it, I will also have the link down in the show notes. You get 15% off everything from The Feed, which is all your hydration and nutrition and needs of that sort. So thanks again to them for reaching out and setting that up. In the meantime, hang in there, everybody. We'll get through this thing. Remember to work hard, be nice, happy running. We'll talk soon. There will be another day.